Hi everyone, it's Nicole from Baby to Sleep and we are on part 12 of our journey now. So night 10. So for those of you that have been following the journey, you know that on night 9, Alyssia slept for 12 hours, 15 minutes straight through, which was utterly incredible. So that's the first time. That was on her 22nd month birthday. So for the first time in her entire life, she slept right the way through the night. Now, predictions wise, I didn't think it was going to happen for a second night running. I predicted it and I was right. And to be fair, the circumstances of yesterday played a big part in that. And I'm going to explain a little bit about the biology element of it. So the body clock and why a later bedtime can predict a night waking or an earlier rise and a few things like that. And just explain why last night didn't quite go to plan. Yesterday, so she'd woke up at 6:10. She'd been asleep since 5 to 6 the night before, and she was really tired, really tired yesterday morning, and to the point where she was back in bed asleep for 5 to 9, which was just absolutely totally and utterly bonkers. So there was no way I was going to be able to stretch her another 2.5 hours to get to normal nap time. That's just not even a possibility. So yeah, definitely not. So I put her down and I woke her about 20 to 10. I thought she might wake a bit earlier if I went and got in the shower and things like that, but she was just out for the count. So I woke her about 20 to 10 and it was then about 2 o'clock she went down for another nap. So she slept from about 2 till 3, but I had to wake her at 3. Now this is totally and utterly not in her normal pattern. So she's normally asleep for about 11:30. She might wake about 1:30, and she tends to be ready to go to bed for 6. And she seems to be on a 6 till 6 type of body clock, which is absolutely fine. I'd love to get it 7 till 7. I know that's generally unrealistic, but I'd love to actually be able to get to a 7 o'clock bedtime, so the wake up time is going to be later than 6. For one of the reasons I've mentioned to you before, because we need to get to the point where we're starting to transition her into Sophia's room. But while she's up at 6 o'clock-ish time and I'm working on Sophia trying to get her closer to 7, the two together aren't going to gel. So the easiest one to actually adjust would be to move Alyssia to a later one, but that's going to take a bit of work, and you'll see why in a minute when I kind of explain what happened. So she was up at 3. Now normally, because she goes to bed at 6, it's her body clock's ready for going to bed about 6 o'clock. The issue you've got is you're trying to find that that line between the getting enough sleep pressure to actually sleep through the night and go to sleep, and also not completely messing with the body clock. So like I say, yesterday was very unusual. Sleep breeds sleep, and I think that whole big thing of her body suddenly getting this massive mega sleep just basically knocked her for 6 a little bit, and she went to sleep even earlier than expected. So she's ended up having 2 naps. First time she's had done 2 naps in probably 5 months or something like that, 5 or 6 months. So really unusual. But it is what it is. But that gave us the dilemma that by 6 o'clock she wasn't going to be ready to go to bed. Her body clock would have probably been ready to go to bed, but she physically wasn't able to do it because she hadn't been awake long enough to build up enough sleep pressure, as we call it, to actually get through the night. So I had to kind of go the other way, and it was, to be honest, it felt like it was going to be a lesser of two evils. Which way do we actually go with this? Go too early, we could get the fight where she doesn't want to go to sleep, she's not ready to go to sleep, she's trying to climb out of the cot and all these types of things, and it becomes much more traumatic. And that's not going to help anybody. That's not going to help Sophia, because she's obviously, waiting for me as well. So we kind of went, right, well, let's just see where we're at. So I was working towards a 7 o'clock bedtime, but it became very obvious that she wasn't going to make it. So we ended up with 6:45. Now, that might sound like still quite an early bedtime to a lot of people, especially when 7 o'clock tends to be normal bed. But for her, a 6:45 bedtime was actually 45 minutes late. And her body clock wasn't really ready for that, and it's not quite ready for that adjustment in one go. So these are all telltale signs for me that say everything's got to be done on a transitional point, rather than just kind of whacking a big body clock change in there and saying, right, you're going to do this, because she's not going to be ready to do it. So actually she went to bed 45 minutes late for her, which then has disrupted night. So For example, how many times have you been told put your baby to bed later or put your child to bed later and they will wake up later, to find that they actually don't wake up later, they actually get up earlier, or you have a night waking or something like that, and you sit there going, but why? I don't understand it. This doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it does actually. It's completely biologically normal, because in the first half of the night, that's where they're catching up on their non-REM sleep. This is that deep sleep. This is where their immune system is developing. This is where their growth hormones are kicking in. And you've got your second half of the night, which is more your predominantly REM sleep, which is your dream sleep, which is the memory consolidation. So they are entirely different. Every sleep cycle has all of these stages in. It's just the way the night is split. So if you're ever in a situation where you're needing to get a later wake up, or you're catching up on sleep, you want to go earlier to bed so they can catch up on their non-REM sleep. The less non-REM sleep they get, the tireder they are, especially if they end up with more REM sleep. I know I might be confusing you, but it is a normal biological thing. I'm not making this up. I'm just not the scientific-y, wordy type of person. I just basically tell you the facts in my language. So, which is the non-academic world stuff. So, so she was like, in a way, she'd lost out on 45 minutes of her non-REM sleep. So this did disrupt her. So she went through till about 2:30. She woke up looking for Minnie. I gave her Minnie, and she pretty much settled down straight away. Now that would have been it. Now, this is a bit that I think some of you will find quite interesting, and you can think of it from your own personal perspective as well, because that will help you understand what's going on with your child when they get to this point of a wake up. So she was literally at that point of transitioning to the really sort of deep sleep. So she was there, she just hit deep sleep, and then basically I started coughing. And it brought her out of that deep sleep, and she was actually quite upset. And it took her a good hour or so to finally be able to get back to sleep. And that was my fault. It was my cough. It's like, ah. So not only was, so she got a later bedtime, her sleep was disrupted because of me coughing, and she basically came out of this particular type of sleep, and it took her ages to go back to sleep because she was unhappy, because she didn't want to be awake at this time. And I know exactly what that was, because the way that she cried out while I started, after I'd been coughing, it was the very sort of quite upset type. So I speak to so many parents that are terrified of going to sleep because they're waiting for that wake up, because they know how they feel when they get woken up after they've just fell asleep. So the way that you'll remember it, if you've done this yourself, is you'll just fall asleep, you'll hit deep sleep, something will jolt you out of it, and you've jolted out of this deep sleep, and before you know it, you're feeling nauseous, you're feeling dizzy, you're completely disorientated, you might sweat a little bit because you're just not, everything about this, your body has just been completely disturbed, and it's bizarre. I've done it where I've literally felt physically sick because you're just not here. You're somewhere else, and it's a really it's a weird place to be. But that's entirely normal. It's because you've just fell into this really deep sleep and you've been jolted out of it, and it really does have a knock-on effect on how your body reacts to that. And that's where she was, and it can take a bit of time to sort of readjust and resettle back into sleep. When she did go to sleep, that was fine, and she woke up about 10 to 6 this morning. So not the best night, but not the worst, but not by a long stretch of the imagination. But I kind of had an idea it was on the cards anyway after yesterday. And that's fine. I was aware of it, and it makes it less stressful if you know it's coming. Now, the other things as well, I just want to let you know, so she didn't get her feed this morning because what she wanted to do, so I made a little bit of an error yesterday in that she'd slept for 12 hours 15. I was so over the moon with her. It was like, wow, you've done so amazing. And she's like, yeah, feed. And I went, okay then. And I kept the lights off, and it was all really dark, and it was still quite early, but I let her have a feed anyway. Yeah, that didn't go in my favour. And to be honest, while I was actually doing this yesterday, I thought I really should have waited. I really should have waited till the point where I'd said it was morning, rather than her dictating me go, okay then. Because that then had consequences this morning for me, where she's going, I want to feed. And I'm going, no, sweetheart, it's not morning. You can feed in the morning. And when I say morning, I mean in the sense of not when it's still dark and we're trying to keep things quiet, because we tell Sophia that she can't come until 7. Not that she listens, but hey, that's just kids for you, isn't it? Um, but but we're there and we kind of go say no, not till morning. In other words, till I say it's okay, rather than her dictating. And something I've really found over the last just over a week, since working towards stopping breastfeeding, is that I actually find it really irritating when she's kind of going and sticking her hands down there, because I'm like, actually no, this is my body. Something that Charlotte from Rebel Milk says, it's about consent, and this is my body. And if I don't want her kind of coming in and taking over, that's fine, because that's my body. And I found it quite irritating, because she's going, no, and she's got her hands down there and she's grabbing at me, and I'm going, no, stop, you can have a feed in the morning. Eventually, she actually got to the point where she started pulling my hair, and I said, Alyssia, let go of my hair. If you don't let go of my hair, darling, you won't be having a feed this morning. And she actually yanked it and pulled a chunk of my hair out. Obviously, one thing I will tell you all, boundaries are very, very important. Once you set yourself something, when you've said something that you're going to do or not do, you've got to follow through with it. And in most instances, following through with something is actually harder for us than it is for the child, because we end up kind of going, oh, I really didn't want to have to do that. I feel awful, but you haven't put me in a position really where I can say anything else. So I said, I'm so sorry, sweetheart, but you can't have a feed. I gave you the choice. I told you to let go of my hair, and you chose to pull it instead. So there is no feed this morning. And she wasn't happy, but she got over it quick enough. And for some of you, you might be watching this going, oh, but she's only 22 months. She doesn't understand. She does. I have learned so much throughout this experience as to how much this little girl really does understand. And when you go through something like this, if you haven't started it yet, and you are looking at making these sorts of changes, you will be surprised how much your child really does understand. And it makes it a lot easier when you really kind of, you get it, because you are able to be firmer in your boundaries, because you know that they do get it. They do understand what you're saying. And you feel less bad about saying no to something, because they are pushing those boundaries. And this is normal at this age, and this is why it's a really, really important age to keep those boundaries in place, because they've got to know where is okay and where isn't. It helps them feel safe and secure. This is one of the reasons why the behaviour and sleep support guide was created, because I'd only managed to do the online courses up to sort of 24 months, but it's kind of, there's a caveat with that. If sleep's always been pretty bad, yes, you can get away with this up to 24 months. If sleep's always generally been pretty good, but it starts to dip, getting closer to 2, that's when the new course comes in. Because it's about the transition in the brain, it's how things are changing, and it's about having to come at things from a very, very different angle. When they're younger, yes, okay, you're not really pushing on the boundaries and the behaviours as such and all these types of things, and the emotion coaching is completely different. It's more to do with making sure the connection's there, the naps are in a good place, we've got a good bedtime routine, everything's conducive for sleep, we're consistent but in the right way. It's a different ball game completely, hence the reason this other course was created, because you've got to treat sleep so different from this sort of 20 to 24 month age onwards, if it's to do with the way that the brain's changing, because they go through such a change when they get to around that 2-year-old point. Their brain, I go through it all in the videos anyway, so if that's something you're interested in, if you are wanting to make changes to your little one's sleep and behaviour, that course is from 20 months up to 6 years old, which might sound like a big leap, but actually it's to do with it's all to do with behaviours. It's not just about sleep at this age. There are elements where we're talking about naps, but then there are other things that are for the older age group as well. So it's one that will get you through for 5 years worth of support, basically, for one course. So it is really, really good. But it's really important, that's what we get back to, it's really important at this age that we are really embedding those foundations, because if we don't actually stick to what the foundations are now, if we don't embed to say, this is right, this is wrong, when I say yes and I stick to it, when I say no, I really do stick to it and I do mean it, if those boundaries are blurred, that makes it really hard for your child. This makes it very confusing for them. So we've got to be the parent and say, this is where we're at, and what I say I stick to, I mean what I say. Obviously there are some bits where you might pick your battles, but it's just to give you an idea. And that's kind of where we were this morning, and it was really hard. But yeah, she was a very, very tired girl this morning. We've been out this morning and she's fell asleep in the car about 11 o'clock. So I brought her home, transferred her to cot, and she's gone down absolutely fine. Hence why I'm doing the video for you now. But yeah, so that's a little bit about that. So hopefully tonight will be a bit better. But what you've got to understand is it's not they suddenly sleep through the night, wham bam, there you go, it's every night. It's okay, they've done it. Yes, I know that they can do it. I've just got to make sure all the bits around it continue to be good so it can continue. But we are going to get good nights and bad nights, and it's going to get to that point where it becomes more consistent. And this is the same with anything with children. The more you do something good, the more it starts to stick. But you're never going to get it right 100% of the time. It's just about doing things that bit better and that bit better, and it just keeps on developing. And as something becomes more natural and embedded, you just do it that little bit better again next time until that layer becomes more embedded. And it's a process. You're not suddenly going to go from waking up all night every night to suddenly we're sleeping through every night, you know, because it's not magic. It's children and it's parents, and it's our behaviours and it's their behaviours, and the things that are embedded. Okay, so I hope that explains a few things, but I will let you know tomorrow how we get on tonight. She's happily sleeping at the moment, but let me know how you're getting on your journey. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, because that way you'll get updates every time a new video comes live, and let me know how you're getting on. It's really good to hear that. I've had so many messages and comments from people that saying this has been really, really resonating with them. So it's really nice that it's helping a lot of people, and people are really not feeling like they are completely alone on their journey. So you do have my support. You know where I am. You can email me, nicole@babytosleep.co.uk, or go on the website babytosleep.co.uk, dead easy, and ask for my help. And that's what I'm there for. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.